Hey everyone, I just wanted to give you guys some tips on triangle. As far as holding the triangle, with this type of triangle clip, I've been able to stick my thumb into the hole here, and at the front, right there, I'm putting my index finger. Now the thing about this is, what I try to avoid is keeping my first finger straight like that. For some reason, it just creates a little bit of tension back here. So what I've tended to do is wrap it around and connect it to my thumb. So you have that curve. Instead of a straight index, you have a curve. Cool? Give that a shot. If that's uncomfortable for you, find a different way. Again, I'm always about making sure it's as comfortable as possible. Okay, and as you notice, this leaves the other three fingers available to muffle the triangle. Cool? Now, as far as how high to hold it, what I would recommend first starting is, and I'm not kidding, starting with having the triangle clip at nose level, okay? So seeing first at nose level, and then coming away from the face and finding a position where the forearm can just sit. So for me, my forearm kind of just sits here, and this is comfortable for me. Another thing you want to watch is how high your shoulder is. So if you're holding it like this can be kind of uncomfortable after a while. So make sure your shoulder isn't, unnecessarily raising. It should be mostly relegated to the upper arm moving and the forearm. So I would start with the forearm first, and then if you need to get higher, go with the upper arm. Don't raise the shoulder if you can help it, okay? Another thing you might want to work on is this motion as well. Some people tend to come a little bit too far out in the forearm and elbow and upper arm. So see how much you can just let it sit and rest. You want to make it more like just coming up like that and not really like this. Again, if this is a more comfortable position, go with that, but I would start with the simplest version first and then find your way around that, okay? Now, one of the things that we'll have to be doing with triangle is just single notes and finding where on the triangle we get the best single note, and this is the Legacy Bronze. And on this particular triangle, I find all of my favorite notes around this area for single notes. So this kind of gets you into this playing arm as well. Same thing, you want to start with just the forearm movement and raising it to where it can rest naturally. So the mallet or the triangle beater can be just here for me, which means I would bring the triangle up to it. And I'm not trying to do this kind of thing. So again, I'm kind of going based on what's comfortable for here and what's comfortable for here. And 9 times out of 10, the comfort for here is going to land you exactly where you're going to want to hit. Cool? Again, you'll adjust as you find need to. Now, once you find the single note, what we'll also have to do are more fast notes or having to play inside of the triangle. Now, one of the things that I was taught to do and found with my own practice is to adjust opposite of the arms to get to that space. So instead of keeping this here and coming up like this, what I would do is simply lower the triangle and raise the hand or the arm so that it's more in the style of a drumstick. Okay, so I would practice this motion as well so you can get comfortable with how this is going to feel when you have to go from that kind of thing. Cool? All right, so aside from that, you want to make sure that it doesn't get too low or else you're going like that. You want to make sure it's in a visible space, mainly for the audience and also to make sure you're not looking down and looking at the conductor at the same time. You want to make sure it's good peripheral vision. Cool? All right, now As far as the triangle beater goes, especially with this type of beater, there's a lot of places you can actually strike the triangle. So what I would recommend is finding your favorite spot first, where you get a very general sound, not too heavy and not too light. And start with that. And that goes for any triangle beater. So I would start with finding the spot where you can get a nice general sound, instead of like, or you want something very in the middle, a good mix of highs and lows. Cool? And once you figure that out, then you can adjust both your striking type as far as like how you're striking it. So if you're striking it very heavily, or if you're striking it light. If you're having a slow stroke, or a very fast stroke. So all of these options specifically for single notes. The more control you have over the single notes, the better your playing overall is going to get, especially with soft ones. If you can play softly from here and softly from here and anywhere else, you'll really be a good triangle player. Triangle is one of my favorite instruments, and the one thing I love doing is single notes, just placing them and making them sing really, really nicely. Cool? All right. Now, as far as making more upward and downward movements, what I would practice the most are your upstrokes. And this brings me to how to actually hold the beater in a way that it's flexible but also in control. Okay, so one of the things that is comfortable for my hand, and you should see if you can find a similar version or something along the lines of this, is that I find a way to rest it so that it really doesn't have to be held to stay in place. So for me, the back of the beater sits like at the base of my pinky, like that, and then the middle of the beater rests on the indent of my middle finger. So just having it there, doesn't have to be held at all. And then everything just kind of goes around that really nicely. And then when you bring it here, the same thing. If it's going to sit right on the tip of my middle finger and rest at the back right there. Cool? If you can see that. And literally, I would practice just doing upstrokes and downstrokes with just that, without having anything else on it. Because if you think about it, the thing that's really doing all of the movement is the wrist anyway. And if you can control and manage how the wrist is moving up and down, and really get used to the weight of the beater in that way, once you have the rest of the fingers on, it just stabilizes it a little bit more. Cool, so give it a try. And again, with this kind of stuff, you should just stick to stick control, making either the upstrokes your left hand or right hand. So you have this page 1, number 1. Cool. Do it as slow or as fast as you need to get used to the motion mainly. And I would do a lot of ups. And again, you want to make sure you're relaxed in this, because as soon as you need to go faster, you don't want to be like doing that kind of thing. You want to base it on what I call the twitch. Just making sure you're... And give this a try. See if you can like just have that really fast twitch. It's going to be very light and very small, so you're not going to get a lot of sound. But that's essentially what you're trying to access. And it's really just a reflex. If you just kind of twitch a little bit, it's just mainly trying to find that reflex and then basing your movement on that. And what we call the fine twitch muscles. Cool? Another recommendation, whenever you're practicing triangle, probably muffle it. Doing this a lot can get really a lot for your ears. So if you're going to use, if you're not going to muffle, please wear ear protection, okay? It'll just please do that. Cool? Paradiddles are great too, which would be down, up, down, down, up, down, up, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, up. Doing triplets, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. I'm thinking about right, left, right, left. And especially with this type of beater, or any beater in general, when you're striking up, you want to make sure you're striking the same general area that you're striking the bottom with, okay? So if you have this kind of thing going on, this makes it very hard to hit the same spot. You want to make sure you're hitting the same general area both in the beater and in the triangle. So you want to make sure you're really paying attention to where you're hitting, so it's not like here and then up here. Cool? Cool. Rolls, I would recommend letting the triangle do all of the work with rolls, so just working with the ring. You don't need that much, you don't need that. Just hit and then just cushion that hit. And especially with this kind of triangle where it really sings really nicely, all you have to do is just keep the ring going. You don't have to be fast or anything. Rolling that slow will keep it ringing. Rolling too fast, you'll get too much information and you just overplay the triangle. You want to make sure it sings nicely and doesn't get overplayed. Cool? Yeah, so these techniques you can manipulate and vary as much as you need to attack or strike or do anything you would have to do with the triangle. And you'll find different situations where certain parts of the triangle sound better for certain things, especially with single notes. Or if you find it even easier to do certain techniques in a different spot, especially there. If you feel like this is more comfortable, you would probably start with that and then try to transfer that comfort to a different area. For me, here is more comfortable, but also here is a lot more sound. If I wanted the same type of thing, but lighter, I would transfer it up to this spot, which means I have to be able to do it in both places. So you want to make sure you're very flexible as far as how you play things and how free you feel on the triangle. It's a very complex instrument for a simple, three-sided instrument. So don't take it for granted. Okay, so I hope you try to explore the triangle a lot more than you would normally, especially with specific sounds that you can get with a lot of different characteristics and a lot of different options that you might not think you have. Just give it a try and be patient with it and really try to explore it a lot more. Okay? So I hope you guys had a good time with this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!